Hi, I'm Gina Ann, your tour guide to Adventures to Wisdom podcast. What if you could get answers to your deepest questions, reawaken your sense of purpose, and enhance your zest for connections and play? This is what we do on Adventures to Wisdom podcast with real people, and we're inviting you to come with us. We bring you unscripted, raw, inspirational stories, ideas, and intuitive insights. Hi, welcome to Adventures to Wisdom. Today we have another guest, a very special guest. He is the Vice President of a very prestigious corporation, and also what makes him special is he's my older brother. So welcome, Michael Terrazas.
Hi, Gina. How are you?
I'm good. So glad to have you on. I just want you to introduce yourself and kind of basically what you do, and just kind of like your journey through where you have come from and where you are now, because you had a tremendous perseverance. Obviously, being your sister, I witnessed it on the sidelines, and then we'll get into more of what you do and how you are, as a leader in your profession and a role model, how you are encouraging others, especially women, in your field of science is what I'm really concerned about.
Yeah, that's a good topic. Okay, so let's talk about what I do and how I got there. So first I'll start with, I've got a PhD in organic chemistry, and I got that from University of Illinois in 1999. After I got my PhD, I got hired by a very large company. Many of your audience will know this, 3M company. They're the maker of things like Post-it notes and magic tape, but a whole lot more. They're a $34 billion company. And so I've been with 3M for 23 years now, a little over 23 years. And I started in research and development, and I've been in research and development my entire career. And like a lot of people that go into a company doing research, I started working on the bench doing chemistry like I did in graduate school. And then I decided to move into management. So been in management for about the last 15 years, having different experiences in the company, leading different groups. I also had a unique experience where I spent 2 years in Shanghai, China, where I led our corporate research labs there. And now I've had some other experiences for the last 5 years up into my current position. And so it's interesting that you say female. I was head of recruiting for the company for research and development. And, a big part of our recruiting for research is a lot of PhDs we hire, but, at 3M, we try to hire the very best we possibly can from universities. I was focused on the United States, so all over the United States, but the big focus is recruiting diverse, and on diversity, that was a big focus I had for the last few years. But how do you make sure you hire top talent that is female and that are underrepresented? So, African American, Black, Native American. And so that was a huge focus for the last few years, is continuing to hire top talent that's diverse. For the last 4 months, I moved into a new role. I'm no longer doing recruiting, though I stay engaged with it. I'm Vice President of our R&D of what's called Specialty Materials Development Lab, and it's actually a laboratory I have about 120 scientists and engineers across, most of them in the United States, but some international too, that we make specialty chemical products for the company. So the things that are sticky on the back of tapes likely came through my group. So that's what I do.
Can I ask you a question? I just want to backtrack a little bit on when you say you pick the top talent. Now, I know what that means cognitively and logically, but what does that mean? What if someone doesn't have the opportunity to go to a very influential school, but they have the gifts and the talent? So how do you determine that as someone who maybe doesn't come from a socioeconomic status that allowed them to go to a very highfalutin university?
Right. So that was one of the things we worked on recently too. I mean, so when you look at top talent, you look at diversity, it's really not about hiring for diversity. It's really about inclusion. Okay, so
Right.
you want to have, and if you look at the makeup, not just of 3M, but of a lot of other large companies, the makeup of our populations, whether it's in manufacturing or it's in R&D or other more technical STEM fields, it's not the same makeup as what the general population is. So historically, the way we recruited is we went to the top universities. You go to MIT, you go to Stanford, Berkeley, Illinois, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Texas, Georgia Tech. And so we had about 20 universities. The problem with that is even though female populations have grown, the underrepresented populations, Hispanic, African American, Native American, the populations aren't there. So these are the highest rated schools. So what we tried doing starting about 5 years ago is expand our list of schools that we attend, because there's many schools that'll have top talent, maybe not the populations. Okay, like you go to University of Illinois, where I went to, there's thousands of students. You have a lot of people you can choose from. The populations of underrepresented is not so strong. So, but by expanding our list from 20, we now go to 65 different universities, and we kind of capitalized on COVID, and we do it all virtual, a lot of it virtually.
That was my next question.
So,
Okay.
yeah, so COVID actually was, I don't want to say it was a blessing, it was kind of a silver lining thing, is that we were able to capture or leverage COVID situation to do more recruiting. And then we also started recruiting more at diversity conferences. There's things like NOVASHE, the National Organic Black Chemicals and Chemical Engineer Association, SHIP, the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. On women was a lot of them, like SWE, the Society of Women Engineers. We put more focus on attending those events to help identify top. Now, when I say top, is that when you hire for diversity, you don't change your criteria. Our goal is still, and you shouldn't change your criteria. Your goal is to try to increase the population by being inclusive, but not by changing the criteria of hiring. In other words, it's actually offensive to say, well, I need to get more of this gender, or of this gender or this type or class of people, so let's change the criteria. We don't do that. We kept our criteria the same. The idea is look a little bit harder and look in other areas for the very best people you can.
So I was doing some research on you, although I know you personally, but you were given the title, which I love, the Doctor of Philosophy. Can you expand upon that? How you got that?
Well, that's what a PhD
or
means.
label,
That's just the
which
definition
is great.
for PhD. Anybody who gets a PhD is called Doctor of Philosophy. So that's just a
sure. But what does that mean to you? I understand that's a common terminology, but what does it mean to you, and how does that mean to you?
Well,
because philosophy and science
has nothing to do with philosophy, though. Has nothing to do.
Okay, so it doesn't. So it's just a label. So that's what I was concerned when I saw.
So I'm
that.
a chemist.
Like, what does that
I'm a
mean?
chemist, and there's a requirement that goes from bachelor's degree to getting a PhD in chemistry and even getting a master's degree. So the title of Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, just is what they've historically used.
Okay.
But what I will say is, and it has nothing to do with philosophy, but what I will say is, because we hire a lot of PhDs at 3M, is a PhD, what they teach you, they don't just give you, they give you more in depth in your field. Okay, like you're in psychology, so as you go further and further, they give you more in depth. But when you get the PhD, it's more than just the depth of learning, it's also the way to think. So what we learn, and this is you can learn this on the job too, but it takes time. But when you're in an educational setting, it's how do you think critically? If you're reading something, how do you think about it to say, do you believe this is true? Is the experimentation correct? What do you think about the data that they gave to draw their conclusions? When you go for a bachelor's degree, you just learn. Okay, you learn things, but you don't quite get the experience of how to think and how to apply that knowledge. And that's what a PhD does.
Right. Well, you're also an inventor. So you patent many, many formulas. Do you feel, now, I'm in the field of psychology and intuition, and do you feel part of your field has to do with intuition, or do you not believe in intuition at all?
Well, I believe in what I see. So I'm a scientist.
Exactly.
I believe in data.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, data can't explain everything. And so, and sometimes data can be very counterproductive, so you keep trying to use experimentation to try to prove a theory. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I hate it when a scientist say, I believe, okay? Because I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? I believe,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Or I hope, because that's not scientific. Hope and belief are not scientific. Data is scientific, but you don't always have.
Okay.
So you have to use the principles of science, a lot of first principles, to try to explain things, because we have to explain results. And a lot of times our data we have don't explain the results. So you have to have a theory. Well, why does this happen? What could be occurring? What are some of the other things that are causing something to happen that you wouldn't expect to happen? And sometimes there's interfering things, there's variables, there's a contamination of something that
Mm-hmm.
causes something to happen. So we try to explain the result using science, and a lot of the science is based on data. We may have beliefs, but then we try to use experimentation to try to prove those beliefs.
Okay.
So I would say intuition just leads us to the experimentation that we should run.
Okay, good. Yeah. So there's an integration of that at some level.
Has to be. That's what science is
Good.
all about.
Okay, good. So are you because of COVID, are you involved? What is the purpose of 3M? I know they make tremendous amount of products, but what is their mission?
Well, our mission, oh God, I'm not going to go through our mission statement, because I would probably say it a little bit incorrectly. But 3M, we kind of impact everybody's lives, and we are a technology-driven company. In fact, what I would say is that nobody in the world is more than 6 feet away from a 3M product. You don't know that. So I don't know what you're looking at me through a computer or through a handheld device, but that device you have doesn't say 3M anywhere on there, but it probably has at least 6 to 8 products. So our purpose is really about having the people that we have in our group to be able to use their minds to create things that ultimately help people,
Perfect.
and we do that we have 50,000 different products. We have 4 different business groups. And so our people are allowed to be creative and independent, that ultimately generates things that help people. And obviously that helps our stakeholders. Our stakeholders are our people and our shareholders and our customers.
Okay, well, I like to use the word creation and being creative, because I think in that gives a sense of play and wonderment to your products. I mean, Post-its are fun. Do you know how many people use Post-its? One of my favorite products ever. And weren't you an intricate part of the Post-its?
No, that was
The sticky part, the
invented in
adhesive,
the.
but the adhesive.
Not
Adhesive part?
me. No, that was
Okay.
invented by a person named Art Spence. Oh God, Art Fry was the inventor of the Post-it, and can't remember Spence. Can't remember his
What have
last
you
name.
been a part of? Tell me something that you've been a part of that we would all recognize in our
Oh,
homes or
geez.
our offices. Just
Well,
something
I haven't had too many. I've had products. So, first of all, you have to understand what 3M is. So 3M has got I have about 20 patents. I think I have 19 official patents. And so things that we work on are components of products. Okay. So in other words, 3M, if I make a chemistry, if one of my people make a chemistry, we don't sell that chemistry by itself. It becomes part of the product. So think you like Scotch tape. Okay. You like Post-it notes. Post-it notes has an adhesive. It has a paper product. It's also coated with a primer. It's got about 6 or 7 different technologies.
Mm-hmm.
Any one person could be working on a piece of that. There's people in our divisions, R&D people, that are trying to make it practical for what you would use it for. How do you know, including the colors that we use, you know. So there's a lot that go into the product. So what have I worked on? So when I started at 3M is I worked on what's called fluorochemicals. And we still have fluorochemicals. Fluorochemicals have had some challenges in the environment of late. So I'm still involved with fluorochemicals now in a different way, not making them. But some of the products that I've done, I don't know, because mine don't go into consumer. Mine are more on the industrial side. But I would say it was products that are more closely related to Scotchgard-like products. You know, Scotchgard is a brand, but a lot of our former Scotchgard products were based on fluorochemicals that make things oil repellent and water repellent. Those were a lot of the types of things that I worked on earlier. But since I never worked on consumer products, mine were more on the industrial side of the products. Nothing that you probably recognize.
Right. What does 3M stand for?
Well, 3M is the name of the company. Its original name of the company that started in 1907 was Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing.
There we go.
So it came out of Minnesota, but we changed that about 15 years ago. But that's where it's historically meant. It's Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing. We actually still have mines. So, you know, a house on a roof that has shingles on it, it's got little wood, granules. It's probably a good shot that those came from 3M, and we still mine those roofing granules.
Okay. Do you get a lot of, are you all at 3M as a corporation environmentally conscious?
Oh, very much. I mean, we have environmental goals. ESG, environmental society and governance, is a big part of what we do. We have a massive sustainability report that we put out every year. I myself am involved in a lot of ESG activities, you know, but yeah, I mean, we try to do things looking at water emissions, air emissions, you know, how do we, you know, war on plastic. We're trying to do a lot on being more sustainable. How do we become less dependent on petroleum derived materials? How do we emit less materials into the air, whether it's global warming potential materials, CO2? How do we use less water? And when we do use water, how do we return it back to the environment cleaner than when we used it? So that's a major, major goal for our corporation.
So I'm going to step back just a moment. And women in the field, are you seeing more women in the field?
It depends on the field. I mean, you know, in the STEM area, there is a higher population on the biological sciences that you tend to see a higher population of females. I'm not sure why that is. But we are seeing more and more on the more historically on the engineering. It's been a little bit less population of females, but we are seeing more and more. And a lot of it's because, you know, universities and corporations together are putting a focused effort to help by various things. So at 3M, we have an organization called 3M Gives, which is a philanthropic organization. And we start giving at the very low level, so K through 12, to try to encourage women and underrepresented populations to go into STEM, I think. And then we continue doing that to help fund educations when people are in undergraduate or graduate school, that we continue to help that. Many, many companies are doing this. The federal government is doing this. So yeah, I think we are seeing a more of a population. I had certain goals that we tried to achieve on the amount of new hires that we would have that were female or underrepresented, and we hit most of our goals that we wanted to. 3M has a corporate goal to try to have more females in leadership positions. So yeah, there's a lot of, and we're not the only company that's doing that. There's many companies that are being very aggressive. I'd say there's probably more activities going on in the corporate world right now on trying to, and that's actually even globally, you know, to try to help be more inclusive when they think of the populations in the workforce.
Well, I think it's really important. I was in the education, as you know, for over 20 years, and there's a stigma of girls are not good at math and science. And so trying to encourage these young girls, I was a Girl Scout leader, into science and math. As you know, I was never good in math. You helped me with my homework. Yet I kept trying to take it. I mean, you've done a lot of things, and that's where I'm going to get into the personal story of, yes, you're my older brother. You were my first protector. As I recall one story, 5 years old, living in Hawthorne, California, and we rarely had a babysitter, but we had a babysitter that time, and Michael was playing with the girl across the street, Dana Ball, at our house. He wouldn't let me play. So I sat upon a water bottle and it exploded. Michael was the first one until my mom and dad could get home to take care of me. And now, mind you, I had 100 stitches in my leg and my wrist was split open. And Michael's the one that I'm talking about you in third person, was the first one that had taken care of me. You have followed that throughout your whole life. You being married for what, for 40 years now? You have a true love story. Years, yeah. I've known my sister-in-law since I was 11, 12 years old. I used to cover for Michael when he'd go see her. So I just want to touch on it. It's very rare that you do have this beautiful love story. You have 3 children. Gosh, how many grandchildren now?
3.
3 grandchildren.
Haley,
and
Julian, and Emma.
And just your story and where you've come from. You came from the same small town as we did and persevered through a lot of things to where you are now.
Yeah.
I think that's cause for mention in the sense of it wasn't easy for you.
No, but I never think about it.
What was your motivation? What was your motivation? Obviously, family.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, no, I mean, it wasn't easy, but I don't think about it in that way. I mean, we were
how could you encourage
family.
Others? I mean, how could you encourage others that has all these roadblocks and
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the roadblocks were there when we were growing up too. And, that's why I'm so supportive of other people helping people where they can. I'd say for me and Cheryl, I mean, it was sort of the same thing. I dropped out of high school when I was a senior, but I did very, very well when I was in school. I mean, I got excellent grades. School came very easy to me. I thought Cheryl and I got married when I was a senior, and we had Michael when very young, both of us. And so, but one of the things that we got from Dad and Mom was, you had to work hard. You don't ask for help. So,
right.
I did different things. I was a restaurant manager. I had a real estate license. We were never wealthy, but it was always enough to pay the bills and even, buy our first house before, but there was a point where I thought, okay, I need an education. And that was when I was 25 years old. I need to go to school. When you and I were growing up, I mean, Papa, Dad, I don't know, what grade did he finish? Did he finish middle school? I don't think Dad ever finished high school.
No, he didn't go past 5th grade, he told me.
Right. And, Mom finished high school, but they were very intelligent.
Barely.
So school wasn't a priority for us growing up. It just wasn't. All of our family, they didn't go to school. So it wasn't like they encouraged us to do well in school. And, Mom and Dad, they expected us good grades, but we did. But after high school, generally, we were done. Okay, so now you start working. So,
but when you started working early, Michael. I started working at 9 years old.
Work hard.
You worked when you were very young. You had paper out. I had the afternoon paper. We worked very hard, and I remember going to our mom, and I said, "I'd like to go to college." She said, "No, you just go get a job." And I was like,
wow. But that's the way it was. That's
the way it was. There's nothing negative. It was, and so I got a job.
So when I was, 25, I thought, I need to do more, because I need to use an education if I really want to succeed and do well for the family. So, as I started at, I wasn't sure. It'd been 7 years. So I started at Tarrant County Junior College just to see if it would take. And I did well. And then I transferred to the University of Texas at Arlington and got my bachelor's degree in chemistry. I was doing chemistry because I thought I might want to go to medical school. That was the thought I wanted to do. But then I ultimately decided to go to graduate school. And, Cheryl and 3 boys, we moved to Illinois, where I ultimately got my PhD. And, a little bit later, so I was always a little bit older since I didn't start school back till I was 25. I was about 7 years older than most people. It doesn't sound like much, but there's a bit of a generation
Huge.
gap, especially when you got 3 kids and you're married. But to tell you, and this sort of help comes in, I couldn't go to mom and dad. They didn't have the money to help us pay for school. So if it wasn't for Pell Grants, through the government, because our income was low, I would not have been able to go to school. I did get a
Mm,
fellowship when I went to graduate school, but by that time, they pay you to go to graduate school. So that wasn't it. Of course, Cheryl had to work because we had 3 kids. So, I don't think about it as easy or hard. I just think about it. That was the journey I took. And I always, like anything else, is you can never regret because you can't go back in time. So whatever choice you make is a choice you make. So just like going to Illinois, I had a lot of choices. I could have gone to school. I went to Illinois. I loved it. In fact, I'm wearing my Illinois shirt right
all
now.
right.
So
Uh-huh.
they have a game today, so I got to watch it. So no, I don't think about it, Gina, as being easy or hard. I just think about using what you need. And as you know, I'm a very competitive person, and I always want to be the best I possibly be, whether it's in the grades I do or the job that I do. And Dad instilled into us, you always have to work hard. So I try to do that, and try to be honest. So
That's
that's kind of what
exactly,
I
I
do, but
think
I don't really think about whether it was hard or not hard. Honestly, I don't feel like we were disadvantaged.
at all.
We were just who we were, and this was the path we had. And so
That's
anyway, that's
one
all.
thing. Yeah, we were very loved, very well fed. We didn't know that we were in a place of
Have
need.
or not have
That's right. And
is what it was.
I that's a testament. I feel we were taught, with love, hard work, and integrity. And I think all of us have it. We have 2 other brothers, and it's always stuck. And I think that's gotten through it. When I say easy, hard, it's just verbiage for anyone that's listening that's going through difficult times. And obviously, I have 2 children, and we wanted to provide for them and make it easier for them. But I think we've instilled in our children the same things of we work hard.
I mean, everyone's
Ne-
got pressures, whether you're wealthy or
Absolutely
not wealthy. I mean,
correct.
people all have pressures and stresses that happen in them in life. And I'd say none of us are any different than anybody else, just a
Correct.
different situation,
Different story. Different story. Different characters. So I do want to recall a story though.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, but um, there was a lot of frogs that happened in my life.
Yeah.
Frogs were always present in my life, and I actually have a frog in my workstation. Do you recall when you held me down and made me kiss a frog?
Well, I remember that we kind of lived in a small town. We're pretty secluded, and practical jokes were always kind of a fun thing to do.
To me,
Yeah,
yeah,
to you, well, you were the only sister I had, so
I see.
I had to do it to somebody, and probably my mother egged me on sometimes to
Yeah,
do it
she
to.
did. She did. So I was just, that was just one story that, I recall. So
Yeah,
any other stories that come to mind as growing up come to
nothing that I
mind?
probably want to put on air.
Oh, okay, we won't put on air. So, well, as you know,
We had
I'm
lots of stories.
lots of stories. The frog, yeah, he definitely didn't turn into a prince, that frog. No. So no, I've really enjoyed having you on
Sure.
the show. I was really excited to share your story, and we just touched upon things, but also, just the balance of your professional and personal. And so every guest I have on, I'm psychic, or you feel that I'm psychic. Is there a question that you'd like to ask that, obviously I know you very well, but is there any question that you would like to ask in that field? Because I think, see, I like how you're snickering, because this is my family. Because when I say psychic or intuitive, I do allow spirits to come in. So if you'd like any spirits to come in, I certainly could channel them.
No, I'd
No,
probably need a drink or something for that,
drink.
Gina, to do that. But no, I believe in what I see, and I think it's awesome that you can use your powers to help people or your knowledge to help other people
Uh-huh.
out. we'll save it for another time. How's that?
Perfect. So no, thank you, Michael. I love you. And this
I
is
love
really
you
fun. I was
too.
really excited. And of course our family doesn't know. So when they see this, they'll be super excited and, tell Cheryl hello and I love you. And,
I will.
well, thank you for being on Adventures to Wisdom.
No problem. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Talk to you soon. Bye, Michael.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Gina Ann, your tour guide to Adventures to Wisdom podcast. What if you could get answers to your deepest questions, reawaken your sense of purpose, and enhance your zest for connections and play? This is what we do on Adventures to Wisdom podcast with real people, and we're inviting you to come with us. We bring you unscripted, raw, inspirational stories, ideas, and intuitive insights.